Okay, this video covers Sketching Basics 3, which is just a continuation of the last one, the number 2. You can see we're picking up right where we left off, which was we had just finished this sketch. I'm going to move that so it's centered. All right, the first thing that this wants you to do is to understand how to edit a sketch. So you don't want to start a new sketch right now because we're going to edit this existing sketch. So to edit that sketch, you just come over here and double click. I suggest you double click on the picture of the sketch rather than the name, because often when you do the name, it'll try to rename it. Double click on that, and now we are back into this sketch. And you can tell because all your sketch tools are now live up here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add features to this sketch. So I'm going to click on the line tool, and I'm going to draw a point from the corner here, and you can see I know I have the corner because it turned green. And I'm going to go over here to the midpoint of this line, which you know that I get the midpoint because you can see as I drag along it turns to green. So you know I'm in the middle of that line. So I'm going to click that down. And now you want to hit escape. And what we want to do is turn this into a construction line, which basically means it's not really part of the sketch. It's just there as like a helper line. So if I click on this line and I pick this button, which is the construction button, now you can see that it's a dashed line instead of the solid line. So that's how you know it's a construction line. All right. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to draw a hexagon right in the middle of this line. So the hexagon tool is found underneath this rectangle tool. So if I click the drop down here, and you want to say polygon, and you want to make sure this is set to 6 sides, so it's a hexagon. And we're going to put it right in the middle of this construction line, which is why we drew that construction line. So that's the point of these helper lines or construction lines, is so that you can locate things. So I'm going to click that down and just draw it sort of randomly oriented there, and you don't need to say the size yet. So just click it down, and now you can say done here. All those little dots that just came up were all those little degrees of freedom saying how these lines are related. You don't want to see those, so luckily they go away automatically. And now I said to put them located randomly because now you're going to actually set how this is, how it's basically related to the other sketch. So what you're going to do is make this line be parallel to this line. The way you do that is use one of your geometric constraints, which is up in this panel. If you don't know which constraint is which, you can always hover over them and you can see that the name pops up. So I'm going to click on this one, which is parallel. And I'll pick, doesn't matter what order you pick in, but I'll pick this line to this line. And now you can see that I'll hit right click and say OK. And now these are set to be parallel. The next thing to define this hexagon is to say how big it is. As you can see right now, if I grab one of these, I can move the size of the hexagon, which you don't want in a sketch. And this is why it says one dimension still needed here. So I'm going to click dimension. And you need to pick the top point and the bottom point. But right now, you can see that it's giving us a horizontal dimension instead of the distance across the point. So what you need to do here is right-click and say aligned. And what that does is it gives you the distance directly across the points rather than horizontal or vertical. If you click this down, I want you to type in 0.375 and then IN for inches. And the reason that's important is you can type in inch dimensions even though you're working in a metric part, and Inventor will convert it for you. So you type that in, hit OK, and now you can see it shows it as metric, but if I double click on this to edit it, it will show you back what you entered. Okay, the next thing that you need to do is we're going to create another hexagon, but you don't have to draw all of that out. There's a tool up here called offset, which basically takes a sketch and offsets it as you see in this picture. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to click the hexagon, and I want the hexagon to go to the outside. So you can see you can make it go to the outside, you can make it go to the inside. So you want it to the outside, which means it's going to be a little bit bigger. And now hit the escape tool, and you want to dimension this, and you're going to dimension the distance between those two hexagons. And if you click the lines, it'll give you automatically an aligned dimension. And if you click that down, this is going to be 1/16 of an inch. So the reason we're using a fraction here is just so that you can see that you can actually type a fraction, or you can even type mathematical equations into there. And again, you're typing inches and it will convert it for you. So now that's set. The last thing, actually, if you ever see a tool is highlighted up here in blue, that means it's still active. So you would want to hit escape a couple times. Now I'm going to zoom in. And the last thing that we're going to do is draw a rectangle inside of this area. So click this drop down again until you get to rectangle, and you want to use the 3-point option, which just means you're defining it by 3 different points. All right. Now the order that you pick this is important. You want to pick this point and this point, which defines the first size of the rectangle. And then you can come down and pick down here, make sure it's on the line. And you want to snap to the midpoint, and that'll make sure that it actually gets that line. So make sure that it turns green. Hit OK. And now you have a rectangle drawn in there. It still says 1 dimension needed. So the only way really to find out what's needed when you're down to only 1 dimension is you want to turn on your degrees of freedom. And I don't even see anything needed. So I think this is, oh, there it is. So that little rectangle line that I drew, maybe I didn't get the midpoint. But what you can do is this is the coincident constraint. You can click on this and pick the 2 midpoints. It'll make those 2 points be on top of each other. And now it says fully constrained, which is what you want from your sketch. And that's it. You just learned about construction geometry, snapping to midpoints, using an align dimension, typing in different units, and the different rectangle and polygon tools.